Einstein. He unearthed a truth about Jesus that would absolutely shatter the scientific establishment, a truth absent from your Sunday sermons and conspicuously missing from your physics lectures. In his most private correspondence and hushed conversations, Einstein repeatedly expressed a deep fascination with what he called the luminous figure of Jesus. But hold on, this wasn't some form of religious devotion. It was something far more unsettling, something that challenged both religious authorities and scientists. Einstein. He saw physics in the parables. According to his biographer, David McCullough, Einstein was captivated by Jesus, not by miracles, not by theology, but by the teachings themselves. The very words, the structure, the hidden patterns that seemed to elude everyone else. What did Einstein see? That 2,000 years of scholarship completely missed. To grasp this, you need to understand how Einstein's mind worked. He didn't just see numbers and equations. He saw the very fabric of reality. And when he read the words of Jesus, he recognized something familiar, something that shouldn't have been there. The language of quantum physics, 2,000 years before quantum physics even existed. Let me show you what I mean. Jesus said, "The kingdom within is within you." For centuries, theologians have interpreted this as a metaphor, a poetic way of saying that spirituality is internal. How nice, how comforting, how utterly missing the point. Einstein understood something radically different. In quantum mechanics, there's this principle called the observer effect. When you observe a particle, you change its behavior. The aseity of observation, it alters reality itself. The observer and the observed, they aren't separate, they're entangled. Max Planck, the father of quantum physics, he said something remarkable. He stated, "I regard matter as derived from consciousness. Not consciousness from matter. Consciousness first, matter second." Now, read that phrase again. The kingdom within is within you. Is Jesus saying the same thing Planck said? That consciousness creates reality, that the observer is the kingdom. Einstein noticed this pattern, and once he saw it, he couldn't unsee it. But wait, let me take you deeper. Jesus also said, "Ask, and you shall receive. Knock, and the door shall be opened. Seek, and you shall find." This isn't just moral advice. It's describing a participatory universe, a universe that responds to inquiry, a universe where the seeker shapes what is found. In quantum physics, this is called the measurement problem. Before observation, a particle exists in all possible states simultaneously. This is called superposition. But the moment you observe, the moment you seek, the wave function collapses into one specific state. Seek, and you shall find. Not because God rewards the diligent, but because seeking itself determines finding. The observer determines the observed. Jesus knew this 2,000 years ago. He wrapped it in religious language so fishermen could understand. But the physics, it was there, hidden in plain sight. Werner Heisenberg, who discovered the uncertainty principle, he made a confession that most physicists try to forget. He said, "After the conversations about Indian philosophy, some of the ideas of quantum physics that had seemed so crazy suddenly made much more sense. Ancient wisdom, making modern physics make sense. Does that sound like coincidence? To you?" And it goes even deeper. Niels Bohr, the father of the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics, put a yin-yang symbol on his coat of arms. When he was knighted, he chose the motto, "Contraria sunt complementa." Opposites are complementary. This is pure Taoist philosophy. This is ancient wisdom. And the man who helped create quantum physics recognized that the ancients understood something the modern world had forgotten. Einstein saw the same thing in the teachings of Jesus, the paradoxes, the apparent contradictions that resolve into higher truth. The first shall be last. To save your life you must lose it. The meek shall inherit the earth. These are not just moral teachings. They're descriptions of how reality actually works at the deepest level. In physics, particles can be in two states at once. Light is both wave and particle. Time moves differently, depending on velocity. Nothing is what it appears to be on the surface. Jesus taught the same paradoxical reality 2,000 years before physics caught up. Here is where it gets strange. Einstein rejected certain aspects of quantum mechanics. He famously said, "God does not play dice with the universe." He believed in determinism, in cause and effect, in a rational universe. But he also believed in what he called cosmic religious feeling. In 1930, Einstein published an essay in the New York Times Magazine titled Religion and Science. In it, he described 3 stages of religious development. The first is fear-based religion, the second is moral religion, but the third, the highest, he called cosmic religious feeling. This is how Einstein described it. The individual feels the futility of human desires and aims, and the sublimity and marvelous order, which reveal themselves both in nature and in the world of thought. Sound familiar? The futility of human desires, the marvelous order of nature. This is almost word for word what Jesus taught. Let go of material concerns. See the patterns in creation. The kingdom within is here, now, within. Einstein saw these parallels, and it troubled him, because it suggested something that neither religion nor science wanted to admit. Maybe the ancient teachers knew something. Maybe the parables weren't just stories. Maybe they were encoded transmissions of truth about the nature of reality. Let me give you another example. Jesus said, "If you have a mustard seed of expectation, you can move mountains." For 2,000 years, people interpreted this as metaphor. Faith is powerful. Believe hard enough, and good things happen. But look at it through the lens of quantum physics. In quantum mechanics, expectation affects outcome. The double-slit experiment proves this. When scientists expect particles to behave as waves, they behave as waves. When they expect particles, they get particles. The expectation itself shapes reality, is a mustard seed of expectation, the quantum expectation that collapses the wave function of possibility into the particle of reality. Einstein wouldn't have put it exactly this way. He was skeptical of the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics, but he acknowledged that something strange was happening at the quantum level, something that suggested reality was more responsive to consciousness than materialist science wanted to admit. And here is another one. That will shake you. Jesus said, "The eye as the beacon of the body. If your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness." Sound like mysticism? Sound like metaphor? In physics, light is information. Photons carry information about everything they touch. When you see something, you are literally receiving information in the form of light. Your eye is the instrument that translates electromagnetic radiation into the experience of reality. If your eye is healthy, meaning if your perception is clear, your whole experience of reality changes. You see what is actually there. But if your perception is distorted, if your eye is off, you live in darkness. You see a false version of reality. This is epistemology disguised as a sermon. This is the physics of perception wrapped in spiritual teaching. Jesus was teaching how observation works, how the quality of the observer determines the quality of the observed experience. This is quantum physics. 2,000 years early, Roger Penrose, the Nobel Prize-winning physicist, proposed something controversial. He suggested that consciousness arises from quantum processes in the brain, that our awareness itself is a quantum phenomenon. If Penrose is right, then Jesus was describing neuroscience and quantum physics simultaneously. The eye as the beacon. Perception creates experience, and the quality of consciousness determines the quality of reality you inhabit. Now here is the part they never tell you. Einstein had a phrase he used repeatedly. He said, "Science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind." Most people interpret this as diplomatic balance, keeping both sides happy. But Einstein meant something specific. He meant that true understanding requires both the rational inquiry of science and the experiential wisdom of spiritual insight. Jesus taught experientially. He didn't write treatises. He told stories. He created experiences. He pointed at the moon, knowing that those who could see would understand. Einstein taught through equations, but he often said his greatest insights came through visual imagination, not calculation. He imagined himself riding on a beam of light. He saw the curvature of space-time before he could prove it mathematically. Two different languages, same approach. Direct perception of reality, followed by translation for others. Let me show you something that almost nobody knows. In 1950, Einstein wrote a letter to a Navy sailor who asked about God. Einstein responded with remarkable candor. He explained his position as agnostic, but he also said something strange. He described a deep conviction that the world has order, that it can be known, that this knowability itself is a kind of religious experience. This is exactly what the ancient mystery schools taught. Reality is ordered, it can be known, and the knowing is itself sacred. Now, I want to show you something that changes everything. Einstein received his Catholic religious education as a child in Munich. His biographer David McCullough documented that Einstein immensely enjoyed these courses. He was fascinated by the stories of the Hebrew Bible and what he called the Passion of Jesus. Most biographers mention this in passing and move on. But think about what this means. The young Einstein, the mind that would revolutionize physics, was absorbing the teachings of Jesus during his formative years. These stories entered his subconscious before he developed his theories. Is it coincidence that his most famous equation describes the conversion of matter to energy? That his theory of relativity shows how time and space are not fixed, but depend on the observer, the kingdom within. The observer determines reality. Matter and energy are one. These are the same truths, expressed in different languages, but originating from the same source. The Gospel of Thomas, which was buried for nearly 2,000 years and only rediscovered in 1945, contains sayings of Jesus that sound like quantum physics. Split a piece of wood. I am there. Lift a stone, and you will find me. Einstein would have known about this discovery. He lived until 1955. The Gospel of Thomas was published and discussed widely in the early 1950s. Did Einstein read it? Did he see the same patterns there that he saw in the canonical Gospels? We don't know for certain, but we know that Einstein continued to express fascination with Jesus until the end of his life. And we know that the Gospel of Thomas contains teachings that align remarkably with quantum principles. Consider this saying from Thomas. If those who lead you say, "The kingdom is in the sky," then the birds will get there before you. If they say it is in the sea, then the fish will get there before you. Rather, the kingdom is inside of you and outside of you. Inside and outside. Observer and observed. Entangled. This is wave function language. This is the superposition of consciousness and matter. This is quantum spirituality, taught 2 millennia before Planck and Heisenberg and Einstein. You might think this is coincidence, pattern recognition finding meaning where none exists, but Einstein didn't think so. He spent his final years working on unified field theory, an attempt to find the single equation that would explain all of physics, gravity, electromagnetism. the strong and weak nuclear forces, everything unified in one elegant expression. He never found it. But the search itself reveals something. Einstein believed unity existed. He believed that beneath the apparent complexity of the universe, there was simplicity, there was order, there was what the mystics might call the One. Jesus taught the same thing. The kingdom within is like a pearl of great price. One pearl, one kingdom, one truth underlying all apparent multiplicity. There is a letter Einstein wrote in 1954, just 1 year before his death. It sold at Christie's auction in 2018 for nearly $3 million. In this letter to philosopher Eric Gutkind, Einstein expressed his complex views on religion. He rejected organized religion. He called the Bible a collection of primitive legends, but in the same breath, he acknowledged that the highest principles of our aspirations are given to us in the Jewish Christian religious tradition. What does that mean? Einstein was separating the institutional packaging from the core teachings. He rejected the mythology, but he embraced the wisdom. He saw through the surface to the pattern beneath. This is exactly what a physicist does: ignores the surface noise, finds the underlying equation, extracts the signal from the static. Einstein applied physics methodology to spiritual teachings, and he found something that the institutions had buried under ritual and dogma. He found physics. He found the same principles he was discovering in the laboratory, encoded in 2,000-year-old parables. Now let me ask you a question. Why did they separate science and spirituality? Why did the educational system teach us that these are two different domains? Why did we grow up believing that Albert Einstein and Jesus had nothing in common? Here's what I think happened. Institutions thrive on boundaries. Religious institutions control the spiritual domain. Scientific institutions control the physical domain. Neither wants the boundaries dissolved, because dissolved boundaries mean dissolved power. But Einstein lived on those boundaries. He wrote about cosmic religious feeling. He expressed wonder at the comprehensibility of the universe. He repeatedly said that his scientific insights felt almost mystical, and Jesus taught physics to fishermen, used agricultural metaphors to describe quantum principles, spoke about the kingdom within in language that sounded like poetry, but functioned like code. Two teachers, 20 centuries apart, same truths, different languages. Einstein saw this, and it changed how he understood both science and spirituality. In December 1952, just 3 years before his death, Einstein wrote these words: "My feeling is religious insofar as I am imbued with the insufficiency of the human mind to understand more deeply the harmony of the universe, which we try to formulate as laws of nature. The harmony of the universe, the insufficiency of the human mind. The attempt to formulate laws, this is humility. The kind of humility that both scientists and spiritual teachers describe when they confront the vastness of what is. Jesus said, 'Blessed are the meek, not weak, meek, those who recognize their place in the order of things, those who surrender the arrogance of certainty.' Einstein was meek before the universe. He knew how much he didn't know. He approached reality with what he called cosmic religious feeling, a sense of awe that blurred the line between physics and prayer. Let me tell you about one more connection they never want you to see. Jesus said, 'I and the Father are one.' This statement caused outrage. The religious authorities accused him of blasphemy. How could a man claim to be one with God? But look at this through the lens of quantum entanglement. In quantum physics, entangled particles remain connected regardless of distance. What happens to one instantly affects the other. They are separate, and yet one. Distinct, and yet unified. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance. He was troubled by it, because it seemed to violate his understanding of physics. But experiments have proven it real. Entanglement is a verified phenomenon. I and the Father are one. Is this entanglement? Is Jesus describing the non-local connection between individual consciousness and universal consciousness? If so, then every human being is entangled with the source. The kingdom within is within, because you are connected to it at the quantum level. You and the Father are one, not metaphorically, physically, through the entanglement that Einstein himself helped discover, but never fully accepted. This is the ultimate irony. Einstein discovered the physics that explains what Jesus taught, but because it seemed too strange, too mystical, he resisted his own discovery. Yet the experiments have proven him wrong on this point. Entanglement is real. Non-locality is real. Separation is an illusion. Jesus taught this. Physics confirms it. Einstein connected them without fully realizing what he had done. So what does this mean for you? It means that the separation you were taught is artificial. Science and spirituality are not enemies. They are two lenses on the same reality. And the greatest minds in both domains saw the same thing. They saw order. They saw unity. They saw that consciousness and matter are intertwined in ways that neither religion nor science fully explains. Jesus taught this in parables. Einstein expressed it in equations, but the truth they pointed to is the same. The kingdom within is within. The observer affects the observed. Reality is not what it appears to be on the surface, and those who seek will find. This is what Einstein proved about Jesus, not through laboratory experiments, through recognition, through the insight of genius, seeing genius across the centuries. Two men who understood that the universe is more strange, more beautiful, and more unified than ordinary consciousness can comprehend. Now you know what Einstein knew. The question is, what you do with it. Do you continue accepting the artificial boundaries, or do you start looking at both science and spirituality with new eyes, the ancient and the modern, the spiritual and the physical, the teachings of Jesus and the equations of Einstein, all pointing to the same truth, all hidden in plain sight, all waiting for those ready to see? If this shifted something in you, if you feel you understand reality differently now than you did 10 minutes ago, then you are part of a small group, the seekers, the ones who don't accept easy answers, the ones who know there is more to discover. When you support this channel through Super Thanks, you are not just watching videos, you are funding the exploration of hidden connections, the revelations that mainstream sources won't touch, the truths that institutions have spent centuries separating. This is not about me. This is about the knowledge itself, and every support helps bring more of it to light. You have just discovered something that connects the greatest physicist in history to the most influential spiritual teacher in history. This connection was obvious to Einstein. He wrote about it, he spoke about it, but somehow, it never made it into the textbooks. Why not? You already know the answer. Institutions protect their boundaries. Religion claims spirituality, science claims physics, and the truth that connects them gets lost in the gap. But you found it now. You saw what Einstein saw. The patterns that link ancient wisdom to modern discovery. The evidence that consciousness and reality are entangled in ways we are only beginning to understand. This is the real lesson. Not just what Einstein believed about Jesus, but what their shared insight means for how you see the world. The kingdom within is within. The observer creates reality. The parables are physics in disguise, and you are not just a passive witness to reality. You are a participant. Your consciousness matters. Your attention shapes what manifests. This is what Jesus taught. This is what quantum physics confirms. This is what Einstein recognized. Now tell me, do you believe this is coincidence? Or is there a deeper pattern here that changes everything? Comment below. Share your perspective, because I think the people watching this video are not average viewers. They are the ones who feel that something is wrong with the official version, the ones who sense that ancient and modern connect in ways we were never taught. You are not alone. And this is just the beginning. Remember what Albert Einstein said, The cosmic religious feeling is the strongest and noblest motive for scientific research. That feeling, it drove him to discover relativity. That feeling made him see physics in the parables of Jesus. That feeling connected the ancient and the modern in his mind. And now, that feeling has reached you. You have seen what Einstein saw. The hidden physics in ancient teachings, the quantum principles disguised as parables, the truth that institutions have separated for their own purposes. What will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue living as if science and spirituality are separate? Or will you start seeing the unified reality that Einstein glimpsed? The kingdom within. The observer creates reality. I and the Father are one. These are not just religious statements, they are physics. They are the deepest description of reality we have. And they were taught 2,000 years ago by a teacher who understood what we are only now beginning to discover. Einstein proved this, not with equations, with recognition, and now you see it too. The question is whether you have the courage to live by what you have seen, to integrate the ancient and the modern, to become the observer who consciously shapes reality. That is what Jesus taught. That is what Einstein recognized. And that is what this moment is offering you. But there is one final thing Einstein wanted us to understand. In 1955, just weeks before his death, Einstein wrote a letter to the family of his lifelong friend, Mike Peterson, who had just passed away. In that letter, Einstein wrote something that reveals his deepest belief about reality. He wrote that the separation between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. Time is an illusion. Separation is an illusion. The boundaries we think are real are constructions of limited perception. Jesus said, "Before Abraham was, I am. Not I was, I am." Present tense. For a figure from thousands of years before. Is this the same insight? That time is not what it appears. That consciousness exists outside the linear sequence we experience. Einstein understood this through physics. Jesus expressed it through spiritual teaching. Same truth, different languages, both pointing to a reality beyond ordinary perception. You have just spent these minutes receiving a transmission. Not just information, a way of seeing, a pattern that, once recognized, cannot be unseen. You are now among those who know what Einstein knew. Use it wisely. The choice is yours.